Hello everyone, I am Rod and I am the game design instructor for the Academy of Entertainment Arts over at Dixie Hollands High School. If you are one of my students, it's Mr. Flowers to you, and welcome to this video tutorial. Alright everybody, and welcome back to another tutorial in Maya for how to create a character. Today we're going to go over how to set up the skeleton that we're going to be using on our character so we can do some animation, and then so we can bring it into Unreal. So I'm going to jump into my front view, and I'm just going to remove the clothing. So get rid of the boots, the pants, and the shirt. The reason I'm doing this with the character basically nude is this is one skin for the model, and depending on the game that you're designing and the way it's set up, your clothing is technically a different skin. So we're going to add these to the body later. Again, depending on the engine you're making, you might end up swapping out this torso for the shirt. You may swap out your lower hips and your legs for your pants. Okay? If it's a game that has high resolution and you're not worried about poly count, then you can just throw these on top of each other and run with it. But having the clothing on the model does cover up the faces of the body, and if you can't see them, there's no point in rendering them. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and hide those again. I'm going to make sure that I switch my panel up here from modeling to rigging, and then go down to the rigging shelf. You have the create locator tool, which is what we don't want. Right next to it, though, is this little elbow-looking thing, and that's the create joint tool. In Maya, bones aren't really bones, they're called joints. I think in Blender they actually call them bones, and then the joints are just kind of part of it. In Maya it's reverse. The joint is what you create, and the bones are kind of in between them. I go up to my model here, and I'm in a front view. I find it easier to add bones in some sort of orthographic view, either front or side. And I'm going to go to shading. I'm going to make sure that we have X-ray joints on. If you don't put this on, you won't be able to see your joints unless you go into wireframe. So I'm going to hit that. And I'm going to start my first bone right around the belly button. So if you think about meditating, your belly button's here, your navel chakra is about there, or our root chakra. So I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to click on that, and that's going to snap right in there. If you want to see the grid, my grid's turned off, you can go up to show, go down to grid, toggle that back on, and you can see that I am aligned with the origin here. Alright. Now if you're not sure about bones and how to add them or any of the joints, once you add a joint, you can go up to the tool settings here, and you do have some options. Right down here we have bone radius. You can set your bone radius to something smaller or bigger. I think it maxes out at 2 on the preset here, but you can always increase it over here. We have your bone length, average bone length, and all that stuff. Mine is currently set to 2. So from the navel chakra, I'm going to go up to about here. I'm going to call this spine 1. Right here, about mid-chest is going to go, or your solar plexus is going to be spine 2. Spine 3 is going to be about center. And this I would call neck 1. Some people do spine 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then neck, and then head. It's whatever naming convention you want to run with. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my next joint. This is going to be the one that lets my head tilt up and down, so that's going to be my head joint, and then the end of the head there. And hit enter. There we go. First joint, I'm going to call that, you can do pelvis or root. And actually, since we're going into Unreal, we're going to need a root bone, and that's usually at origin. So I'm going to call this one pelvis. Next one, this is going to be spine 1. Spine 2. spine 3. And the reason I'm starting neck here is we're really at a part where if we turn this, it'll turn the neck and the shoulder muscles. So I'm going to kind of keep that in its group of kind of where it's associated. So I'm going to call that neck. This one's mostly for turning the head and tilting up and down, so I'll just call that head. And this one, since at the end of it, I'll just call it head, end. Now you could name this differently. You could do spine 4 and then neck 1 and head, or neck and then head, or you can do neck 1 and 2 and then head. It doesn't really matter, just so long as you know what they are and what they do. Okay. Kind of make sure this is snapped at the grid here. It is. All right, I'm going to go into my side view, and you'll notice, oh, I got to turn X-ray joints on. Shading, X-ray joints. You have to activate that for each view panel. You'll notice that my joints here don't really resemble much of a human skeleton. We want each joint to be as close to the center of the mesh as possible, and these are kind of coming out of the skin here. So I'm going to pull this entire group right about there. That's going to center up this hip one, or my pelvis, and now I have to modify the individual ones. Remember that joints work on a parent-child system, so if I grab the next in the chain, I can move all of its children. If you don't want to move the children with the chain, you can press the D key, and that will allow you to move it any way that you want. So I'm going to kind of pivot this in so it's center. This one's probably fine as it is. I'm just going to move it off just a little bit just to get some curvature. We want this to be able to bend pretty easily. So when we set up our IK joint, it'll flex a little more freely. I'm going to grab this one, pull that back, center it between the neck and the shoulders there. This one I'm going to center neck and the head. And this last one doesn't matter. And the reason this last one does not matter is the ending joint has no influence on the model. All we really care about is the fact that there's a bone here. We're going to attach the skin to the bone. And this joint is going to be the one that moves this bone. Maya, for some reason, creates the ending joint. I don't think Blender does. I think Blender creates just the bone. And 3D Max, I think, does the same way. But anyway, there's that. And go back into my front view. And now I'm going to add the arm. So I'm going to grab my joint tool. And the first bone that I'm going to add is going to be right below my collarbone here. We're going to call that clavicle. And then from the clavicle, I'm going to go to my shoulder. And I am going to want my shoulder to kind of pivot up just a little bit, just slightly. I'm going to take that down to the length of the arm. And in the middle of our forearm, I'm just going to add a joint. And this is going to be our twist joint. So when our arm tries to turn one way or another, this will help the skin rotate with it. This one's going to be the elbow. And then I need the forearm twist. And then my wrist. Hit enter. And I'll go ahead and name those. So that's going to be L underscore for left. And then we're going to do clavicle. So clavicle. I'm going to press the down arrow. I'm just going to jump to the next bone. And I'm going to say L underscore shoulder. Down arrow. This is going to be L underscore upper arm twist. L underscore elbow. L underscore forearm twist. I didn't camel case forearm because forearm by itself is a word, so that's fine. And then L underscore wrist. There's that. And like what we did with the spine, we're going to have to adjust the arm. But if we go into our side view, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to adjust it as nicely here. So I'm going to go to the top. So in my top view, turn on X-ray joints, shading, X-ray joints. And I'm going to pull this group to the center of the body. And then I'm going to start moving these in. One thing to note, when you're placing joints, it's not recommended to rotate them. And the reason for that has to do with their origin points. When we animate by rotating a joint. So having the default setting of the joints to be 0 helps us always go back to an origin point. If you rotate the joint as you're setting it, it will forever have this new location as its origin point, and it's kind of tedious to try to remember what that number is. 0 is always a good default. So I'm going to put that back at 0, and instead I'm just going to translate these. So grab that, I'm going to move that down the chain to about center of the arm. Next one, middle of the elbow, forearm, and wrist. I'm going to go back into my perspective view, make sure that I have X-ray joints turned on. There we go. And I'm just going to look at my joints here and make sure that they are center in the arm. And it looks like they're off just a bit. Okay. From here, I'm going to make the leg. So front view. Get my joint tool. The first joint I'm going to add in the leg is going to be my hip joint. So the hip bone is connected to the thigh twist bone. The thigh twist bone is connected to the knee bone. Alright, so we have our hip, our thigh twist, and then our knee bone, or knee joint. I come down to the middle of the shin, and then I'm going to come down to the ankle. Alright, I'm going to jump into my side view, and then from here I'm going to add the last two joints. I'm going to add the ball of the foot right there, and then I'm going to add the toe. Hit enter. And now it's just a matter of shaping them up. If you look in this side view, you can see that they don't occupy the center of mass of the model. So I'm going to go to my ankle joint here, select that. I'm going to hit the D key so I can move it by itself. Just going to center that up. I'm going to move this calf joint, or shin joint, center of the leg there. Knee joint, center of the knee. Thigh joint, about the center of the thigh. And then the hip joint, about center of the hip. That'll work. Okay. Now it's just a matter of naming them. This one's going to be L underscore hip. And we have L underscore, this is going to be thigh twist. L underscore knee. L underscore shin twist. Next one, L underscore ankle. L underscore foot. And then L underscore toe. So we don't really need a heel because we don't really care. We just want the ankle to flex here. We want the foot to bend here when we take a step. And we need and the toe joint doesn't really flex the toes. It just gives us this bone, which is needed to help this part of the foot bend when the foot takes that step. So, all right. Next, I'm going to do my hand. I'll do my hand from the side, just so I can see my finger. Grab my joint tool, and add my first joint right about there. And I'm going to change my short bone radius. I'm going to change these both down to 1. Just because they're pretty big in the finger there. Drop my radius down to 1. And the finger's going to have the first knuckle. Well, we have the main knuckle there, first knuckle. And this is going to be the middle knuckle. And the next one is going to be the tip of the finger. Now remember, this one doesn't do anything, but we do need that bone. So although we have 3 real joints here, this last one is just there for that bone to be there. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and name these. L_index1. L_index2. L_index3. And L_index4. Okay. Now we added the finger in the side view, but it does not line up in our front view. So you can see it's way over here. So I'm going to hit the move tool, move that over to about where it should be. And now I have to move these into position. So about there. You're going to go about here. There, and this one will be there. Now I want to make sure that this lines up in all views, so I'm going to go to my perspective. And I'm going to just look and make sure that this finger occupies the center of the skin here. And it looks like it came out pretty well. If you need to make any adjustments, you're welcome to. I think I might just pull this one down just a little bit. When you're working in perspective mode, you want to be aware that you have multiple axes. I wouldn't grab the middle and pull because you have no idea where it's going. I would pull the X in, and then I would change my view and pull the Z in just to see what's going on, bring the Y down, kind of eyeballing as I go. Okay. I'm going to grab that top joint there. And now I'm going to duplicate. So Control D to duplicate. I'm going to move this to there. Now in an orthographic view, it's okay to grab the middle because you can't move it in a third axis. It only moves left, right, up, and down. So that one there. Grab this one, press the D key. I'm going to move this in. Move that one. And that one. Okay. Now it's just a matter of centering them up. So I'm going to go into my perspective. And I'm going to check. And you can see how this one's kind of hanging out of the finger. So I'm going to pull that in X. Just kind of finagle it as I go. And the reason I turn around a lot is I'm trying to see all the different angles of the whatever it is that I'm working on so that I know how to move it. next joint. Let's move that here. That looks pretty center. Go ahead and name these. So this is going to be L underscore middle 1. Middle 2. Middle 3. Middle 4. And it's just rinse and repeat. And if you look at the knuckles on your hand, you'll notice that the knuckles of your index finger, middle finger, ring finger, they don't all align. In fact, your index finger is behind the middle finger, at least on my hand it is, and then it kind of goes down. So this one's up, down, and then down. Just kind of pay attention to that. It'll make a difference to how your hand closes. So pull that, pull that. Grab this guy, move it forward some. All right. Go ahead and name these. That's going to be L underscore ring 1. L underscore ring 2. L underscore ring 3. L underscore ring 4. Go ahead and move that one. Control D, go ahead and duplicate off. I'm going to reference my body, that way it does not, that way I can't actually accidentally click on it. It was driving me crazy. And I did grab that middle and move it in 3D space, which is probably going to bite me, and it does. See how I accidentally moved it back too far? So now I have to move it forward again. That one. That one. All right. Go ahead and name this. This is going to be L underscore pinky 1. Pinky 2. pinky 3, pinky 4. Okay, now for the thumb. Go into my front view. And I'm going to start from here. So there's going to be the connecting joint for the thumb. It really connects back here, but we want this to be in the center of mass. Next one is going to be about there. And then the knuckle there, and then finally the tip of the thumb. And there we go. I'm going to go into my side view, and you can see that my thumb is not lined up, so I'll go ahead and pull that over. And I will very carefully go ahead and move these into position. Go into perspective. Just make sure it is occupying as center of the thumb as possible. Okay. Go ahead and name my thumb. So L underscore thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 3, and then thumb 4. And there we go. Now all we need to do is connect our fingers to our hand. So I'm going to grab these. Make sure we grab our thumb and all of our fingers, and then Shift, select the wrist, and then just press the P key, and that will parent to the wrist. And there we go. Now it's just a matter of connecting the other joints here. I'm going to connect my collarbone to spine 3. That's the center one here. So hold Shift, select, and then hit the P key. And there we go. Lastly, we want to take the hip bone connected to the pelvis. Hit the P key. There we go. Oh, right down here on the foot, you can see how this is not centered. I'm going to grab the foot bone. I'm just going to move its center of the foot there. There we go. Alrighty. And now it's just a matter of duplicating our joints. So I'm going to select my collarbone here, and I'm going to go up to skeleton. If you can't see the skeleton option, make sure you're in rigging over here. Drop down, go to the rigging. I'm going to grab skeleton, and I'm going to go down to mirror joints. Hit the options box. And all I'm going to do is check my settings. If you are working with Z pointing to the front, and X is your left and right, then you're going to want to have YZ to be the mirror axis, or mirror across. And I'm going to choose behavior, and then I'm going to go where it says replace names for duplicate joints. I'm going to do L underscore, because that's the old one, and I want to replace that with R underscore. And then it will name everything for us. And I'll hit apply. And it should mirror right across the axis for us. Check, make sure it's all center. Looks good. And you can see our clavicle and all the way down. I grab the hip, and I will just hit apply, and there we go. We have a skeleton. That's not too bad. In the next video, we're going to go over how to orient all of our joints so that we have proper animation when we deform, and we will go over how to bind the skin. Make sure you guys save your work, and I will catch you in the next video.